Regions. Our next presenter is Josephine Learmond Criqui. She's the founder of a CALM initiative, Communications and Leadership Mentoring, and her presentation is entitled CALM: 3 Steps to Better Presentations, the SDG Goals 4. We're going to stay within the Caribbean region. Josephine is from Trinidad and Tobago. She has a natural instinct for communication and leadership, introduced to by the Toastmasters International, first in Germany and then again in the United Kingdom. This complemented the professional training Josephine received, for which she is very grateful. Toastmasters has a program for youth leadership program, for which Josephine has served as a volunteer facilitator on several occasions. Shortly after her dad passed in 2019, an acquaintance told Josephine, "You are your father's legacy." 2 years later, her mom, an insurance agent, motivational speaker, and career guidance counselor, passed. Out of the ashes of this grief and seeking to continue her parents' legacy, a CALM initiative was born. The initiative's aim is to help raise awareness of youth mentoring. Josephine would like to thank her fellow Toastmaster, Vikas Ramrakha, and members of Spot On Advanced Toastmasters Club for their thoughtful mentorship. Josephine, the floor is yours. You're muted if you're trying to speak, Josephine.
Zoom master. Thank you. Before I start, I would like you to unmute your mics and join me in giving our presenters, whose first language is not English, a hearty round of applause, because that is no mean feat. And I'd also like to take the opportunity, as you've been sitting for such a long time, to invite you to raise your hands above your head and stretch first to the left, to your left, and then to your right. Okay, let's stretch those backs and those bones out so we can keep our brains going. Now, as I mentioned, giving presentations that are not in your own language, or even in your own language, is generally challenging. But to do so in another language is actually quite a challenge. What applies next, or what follows next, applies to each of us, me as well, because I'm always seeking to improve, and to all of you. A question, and please put it quickly in the chat. Can you recall a time when you were in a meeting or an event where the person spoke for 10 minutes and the public has said it in 2? And then other person may have spoken for 10 minutes and you thought they could have had it for a whole hour. Do you recall a time like this? Agnes says, yes, sounds very familiar. Okay. Church, I think someone mentioned, yes. I experienced that on a very cold Christmas Eve in London. No heating in the church. Very cold. So, but today, there are lots of steps that you can use for having better, even great presentations. However, today I'm only going to focus on 3. And I purposely use the word presentations because in my experience, when I use the word public speaking, people went, don't talk to me about public speaking. I don't want to know. There we are. Next slide, please. Over the past 2 days, we've heard a lot about the 17 sustainable goals, presentation skills, better presentations. Whilst it encompasses the sustainable goal number 4, which is education and learning, it also covers all the goals. As somewhere along the line, you will be discussing it and you'll be giving presentations on it, as you've been doing today, yesterday, today, tomorrow for the French, and again on Friday. Thus, the better your presentations, the better your personal contribution towards education and learning. Next slide, please. At the heart of the importance of better presentations is communication. Communication being one of the soft skills that the world needs a lot more of. And we've been hearing about it a lot today and yesterday. And we'll hear more about it on Friday again. It's the direction that we're heading in prior to COVID-19, and the world had to evolve more into it, and because of the health updates. My plan for this session going forward is for your participation, and thank you for those who've already participated in the chat. Therefore, I'd be really pleased if more and more of you join in. Next slide, please. We each have our own comfort levels. Very quickly, please put in the chat where you are with giving presentations. Yes, no, maybe. Yes, that you're comfortable. No, you're not. And maybe that sometimes that you are either one or the other. No one? So everyone's comfortable. Maybe, okay. Thank you, Shola. Okay, so I've got two people now who are willing to say, yep, put themselves out there. Because that's what you do when you give presentations. You're putting yourself out there and the fear of rejection. Mandy has said yes. Thank you very much, Mandy. Next slide, and one more person saying maybe. Okay, but no one has said no. Okay, fair enough. Next slide, please. The fear of public speaking, the fear of communication, giving presentations. Please type yes if you are aware that there's actually a word for this fear. Okay, sounds like no one has really aware of it. Yes. Okay, so yes, and thank you, Christelle. Glossophobia. I don't know where it is they get these words from, but glossophobia. And surveys conducted apparently have consistently shown that 75% of the responses to these surveys show that the person feared public speaking more than death. But how many people know death? And I also actually don't know. So how can you fear something you don't know? And that is the problem or the challenge, fearing something that is unknown to you. As was mentioned in my speaker's bio, I've been a member of Toastmasters for about 9 years. Last year, I was in the audience of a Zoom workshop with the 2021 winner of the World Championship of Public Speaking, a lovely lady from South Africa, and the first person from South Africa to win, and in fact, the African continent, to win the World Championship of Public Speaking. And her name is Verity Price. She put forward an alternative view that persons who say they don't like presentations or get the heebie-jeebies are actually afraid of losing face, of making a fool of themselves, which will affect their credibility, their connection with their colleagues, their image. And as you've heard from Marta this morning, image, your personal brand is very important, even more so today due to social media. Next slide, please. I'd like you to take a moment now and think of some of the presentations you have seen And did any of them tick the boxes for you? Now, I've deliberately created this part of the slide with the blue background to give you an example of what not to do. And regrettably, I have seen people do this with a mixture of fonts, colors that you can't even read on a dark background, or perhaps even on a colored background. And it was like, well, what's their message? What are they trying to say? I mentioned here a gentleman by the name of Carmine Gallo. He has studied Steve Jobs' style of communication, and it's all on YouTube. They can have a look and see how Steve Jobs communicated. He would not tell you something about the iPod holding 50 gigabytes of memory. He'd actually break it down and say, I'm pretending this is my iPod, that this can hold 10,000 songs, which makes it more relatable to the public than by going into all the nitty-gritty and all the specifications that an IT person might be more interested in. And then I've mentioned you can get photos, cartoons, drawings from Pixabay, iStock, Canva, Getty Images. Usually there's a cost for the Getty Images, but then if you're doing it for work, they might provide you with that license. And of course, there's the well-known KISS. Keep it simple, okay? Don't overcomplicate it, and try to keep your words as clear and as concise as possible. Next slide, please. Master, can you play the video, please? I'd like to ask you now, please put in the chat what stood out for you. Notwithstanding that there was no sound, what stood out for you? Anything at all? Okay. Yes, she seemed very happy. We could tell from her expression, body language, that she was very happy and was certainly enjoying what she was doing. So thank you, Mandy and Shola again. And as I've put here, and was anyone aware of, or are you aware of her participation with the halftime at the Super Bowl with Rihanna? Yes, thank you, Crystal. And this is, I took this clip from a YouTube channel called Broad Street Media in Barbados. And apparently that project or that service came about as a result of funding given for some deaf people to learn media skills, including editing. And all the services to the finished product is done by deaf persons. Disabilities is something very close to my heart due to my mother losing her eyesight in the 1980s. And when I was living in London and they had the London 2012 Paralympic Games, I had the honor of being one of the volunteers for the Paralympics opening ceremony. And I got to see up close and gain real appreciation for persons who are differently abled to myself. And what was amazing is that how quickly they were able to pick up things that even I, as an able-bodied person, could not and did not. And disability is something that we have to remember for the Sustainable Development Goals, because it talks about inclusion, no poverty, ending of poverty, education, and when someone has some sort of disability or being differently able for whatever it is, or even a different language and not speaking the native local language because they're an immigrant. All of this tends to lead to their own challenges. And then the environment, the country perhaps not moving forward as they really can. So Master, next slide, please. The one before that. And play the video, please. Okay, with this one, for some reason, the sound is not coming through. And this is actually the song from Rihanna's, the song that Rihanna was singing at the time, that you could see then how her body movement was actually in tune with the music. So she's also signing and indicating for the deaf, partially hearing, of the music. And as someone who dances salsa and very much a dancer, they try to interpret what the musician is playing, so that in the event that you don't have sound, or someone who is deaf, that they in turn, or even at a distance, that they in turn can get a sense of the music, the beat, the rhythm, and what's going on. And as you've seen, Miss Miles was just so energetic and passionate and smiling, they could see that she was thoroughly enjoying herself. Next slide, please. So with this slide now, as you've seen, I've actually put down a sunflower because that's what I think when I think of Miss Mills. It's an illustrative representation of Miss Mills because I could not find a photograph that I thought I could use without upsetting someone and their intellectual property and licensing. So I've used a sunflower to represent in the meantime. And as you can see, eye contact. She connected with us as an audience in spite of, what was going on. And I've actually subsequently seen on Facebook and other places that they actually enjoyed seeing Miss Mills more than they enjoyed seeing Rihanna because her energy, her enthusiasm, her body language, yes, she's signing, but, big gestures, okay? Speak from your presentations, okay? So speak to your presentation rather than from your presentation. That's by PowerPoint. Overuse of PowerPoint. Yes, we can have lots of wizardry things coming in and out, floating up and down and sideways. But again, Chris, keep it simple. Personalize it. Bring some of your personality into your presentation and let people have, let your audience have an appreciation of you. So therefore now for me, exemplifying some of those behaviors, then you've got an appreciation of what I'm like as a person. And ultimately, be you, have fun. Because at the end of the day, this is you giving a presentation to, your audience, your colleagues, even family members, wedding speeches, funeral eulogies, when you're having to say some words about your loved one who's passed. So ultimately, have fun as much as you can, obviously within the appropriateness of the situation. So of course, the severity of the COVID-19 health updates and everything that we kept seeing and all the press conferences, there had to be a solemnness to it. But where is something that you can be happy and joyful with, then by all means, please do. Next slide, please. And play the video, please. So again, one of the advantages of being part of Toastmasters is that I've had the good fortune of being part of workshops conducted by some of the most fantastic speakers in the world. And at another workshop that I was at, where Roger Caesar, who came in 2012, 2021, the same year as Reggie Price, he talked about landing the plane. So again, if someone can say something in 2 minutes, but then they might take 5 minutes, they're circling around the air traffic control tower, land the plane, have a strong ending, know how and when to end your presentation. And please stick to the allocated time. Next slide, please. So here we are for the Q&A. Any questions, comments? Remember I said I would like your participation. It's not about me talking at you, it's about talking to you, and I'd like to hear from you.
Okay, Josephine, thank you very much on your riveting presentation and teaching us, or actually reminding us, the roles of being a good presenter and the importance of our presentations. As someone who teaches computing for students, presentation skills is actually one of my subject areas to teach. So it's a bit refreshing to see someone else, you know, presenting on some topics that I do present on to my students. Remember, we have 2 questions at present by Shinwi, Georgina, and Donatus. And we will go from there. Shinwi, you can go ahead and answer your question.
Yeah, thank you. Good presentation and also difficult. Can you throw more light on the sunflower based on death by PowerPoint?
Okay, so the sunflower actually chose because I could not get a photograph of Miss Mills to actually show her without perhaps breaking some copyright or intellectual property license. And for me, the sunflower follows the sun. Okay, so it follows the sun in the morning and follows it in the evening. Okay, and for me, the sunflower, the vibrant color of the sunflower is just fantastic. So I use the sunflower.
Oh.
Could look like. Yeah. Now, in terms of death by PowerPoint, it is that it's excessive use of PowerPoint and what PowerPoint can do. The skill, you know, you can have text coming in, you can have it coming out. Some people have had the text coming, one line coming in, another one coming out, and then another one is whizzing up, another one is whizzing down, and then another one is fading in, another one is fading out. And so there's more action in the PowerPoint presentation than there is, you know, in your life in itself. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question about death by PowerPoint, that it's of excessive use by the presenter.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. I see Chinwe has raised her hand, so I'm not sure if that was a legacy hand. Also with your presentation, Josephine, the young lady who was the interpreter for Rihanna, she's also deaf herself.
Yes, that's right. And it actually had the ASL signer, and that she is hard of hearing. Now, I did see a CBS Morning interview with her and Gail King, Oprah Winfrey's long-term best friend. And she's explained that there are different levels of deafness, obviously. Yeah. And some of it is hearing, but based on the level that you are at in terms of what you can hear, then you're classified as being deaf.
Yeah.
So, but for her, it seems, because one of the questions that Gaten asked her is, can she actually hear? Because she was able to sing and, the words and know the words and be on point. And, she would be, as she said in the interview, if the song went boom, 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 she wanted to replicate that with her hands, boom, 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 so that the partial hearing, the deaf persons listening in can see boom, boom, boom. And whereas they could not hear, she wanted for them to see the music. Yeah.
And feel.
Yes. And so it's those cues. And then there's an explosion, her hands exploded as well. Maybe it's the drumming or, one of the percussion instruments or so, horn or something. She wanted that. She wanted to visualize it for the other person's watching. So yeah, she's awesome. She's awesome. And I just love the energy. Well.
Mm-hmm. And it also nicely ties back into the nonverbal communication and how it's very expressive.
Yes, indeed.
Do we have any more questions for Josephine's presentation? Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions or raise hands. You have a number of congratulations in the chat, so you can respond to them there. Thank you very much again for your very riveting presentation and that timely reminder for us. And I now like to hand back over to
I just want the Zoom master. I'm just going to ask the Zoom master to share the next slide, which has my contact details for LinkedIn, so that if it is that, and a call to action, which is please accept the 3 steps of creating a better presentation, which will be enjoyable for yourself and your audience. Content, connection, conclusion. Next slide, please. And here are my contact details. So if you'd like to reach out to me and learn a little bit more about presentation skills, I'm also into leadership and mentoring for the youth and adults. So that ties back in, which is what Yvette mentioned as well earlier, as what Janice mentioned, that it takes a village to raise a child. And I'm very much into that philosophy, into that belief. So by all means, feel free to reach out to me via LinkedIn, and we can carry the conversation a bit more. Back to you, Tammy.
Thank you very much. So there you have Josephine's contact information. If anyone wants to reach out to her, you can, regarding presentation skills. So thank you once more, Josephine. And I'm going to hand over to Patricia to wrap up today's proceedings.
Patricia's feeling a little bit under the weather, so I'm going to be wrapping up today.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We kicked off. Today has been phenomenal. Because I'm in the kind of like education industry, it's just been very phenomenal for me. And we kicked off with Merch's presentation of the presenting a professional image at all times and to building a great brand. I believe that as representatives of ourselves and our countries, how we show up, the first, second, and third impressions all count. And I'm also grateful for her sharing how we should know ourselves, having a vision, a trust, taking action, realizing our potential, and in essence, whatever role we are playing, making sure that role is played exceptionally well and becoming brand ambassadors of our various countries as well. We are all our own personal brands. And Janice's presentation on communication, I love what Janice said. She said, soft skill is a form of currency. So we must invest in these soft skills. And I think that it's good for teachers to train and teach educators to teach these soft skills and make sure that there's an emphasis on that as well. Because if we have all the intelligence and we can't translate that into the soft skills that we have, it's usually of no use. And also, I like your work with Soft Skills AHA. I'll probably contact you to find out what more about that. And News also mentioned about intercultural diplomacy and its benefits of fostering mutual respect, collaboration, dialogue, and linked that with sustainable development as well, and how intercultural communication brings inclusivity. I think that was so well presented. And Chadi's sustainable branding and how he used the Qatar 2022 as an example of sustainable branding and sports diplomacy. We can all witness what he mentioned about all the things about this using solar energy and all that. Yvette's presentation on education for sustainable development and competency, being in that area was my my takeaway, was allowing education to include creativity, flexibility, and being able to solve complex problems. So we must skill, upskill, and reskill to be relevant in the 21st century. And Josephine just talked about how we can calm present. I've learned something new today, and how to, use our body language excellently. And I love what she said at the end, content, connection, and conclusion. And I will say a picture speaks 1,000 words. So instead of having a lot of words going up and down on our presentation, we can just use pictures to finalize that. And it's been so wonderful second session that we've had. And just a quick reminder that tomorrow is actually, there's a session tomorrow, and that will be sent via Eventbrite. So there's a French session, and then Friday as well. So please, everybody must try and connect and link in on tomorrow. Well, the French, if you speak French, that would be wonderful. And then Friday we'll all come back and be here again. And thank you all so much for being present and making this session so engaging. Thank you.
Agnes.
I think would like to. Agnes, do you want to say anything?
Yes, please. And thank you so much for mentioning the tomorrow's French session. Indeed, we have included a Spanish session yesterday during the first day, and tomorrow a French session. You are cordially invited. Even though you don't speak French, you may understand a little bit, and it's going to be a great opportunity to also network with French speakers around the world, and also to improve your French understanding or speaking skills. It is very important to understand that intercultural diplomacy heavily leans onto learning other languages as well, because when you learn another language, you learn another culture. So, to being more diverse and more inclusive and more tolerant towards other cultures, it's also a great for us to take advantage of the French sessions tomorrow. So thank you so much for everyone's participation, and I invite you for tomorrow.
Thank you all, and we'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy your afternoon.
Thank you very much, and thank you, everyone. Be safe, and see you, if not tomorrow, on Friday again.
On Friday.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
We can go now, Patricia. Yeah, leave it.
We can hear you, just a bit soft.
Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't really do much today, but thanks everyone.
No problem.
Okay. All right. So I'll close the room now. If there's anything, you can just settle. Let me end stop the recording.